Hello.
Good evening. I'm Socrates, Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When we believe digital podcasts, go to Roku and download our app. And we believe global with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening, and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the Deep South. Mississippi, the Garden State, the place that I like to call home, the place of birth of my grandparents, all of my ancestry, my lineage, my legacy is found right here in Mississippi. And that's why I am here, to try to make this place a better place, one that we would all be proud of. Mississippi has so much potential. It is given so much, but African Americans have been cheated. Martin Luther King once stated that the fact that America needs to write a check, the check that was written has bounced. And America needs to make that check good for all African Americans and throughout this country. Now, you can call that reparations, you can call that whatever you like, rebuilding a people, you can call it whatever you like. But we give so much in this country to others in terms of the amount of aid that we're putting throughout the world in Ukraine, the amount of support that we're giving to Israel and other countries throughout this world. Let's reinvest a little bit at home. I hate to sound like former President Donald Trump, but it's time to put African Americans first in this country. Let's pay the debt that we owe. Let's show some gratitude for the work that was done by our ancestors that helped build this country. And we contribute so much to this country each and every day. It's important that we fix that issue. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, then we want you to share this program with your friends and family and send us stars. If you're watching us on YouTube, go on and hit the subscribe button. We are actually growing at a phenomenal rate on YouTube. Our subscribers have doubled in the last 6 months, and we appreciate your help out there doing that. And the comments are just off the chain. Now, some of them are ugly. Some of y'all out there just can't quite fathom African Americans having a fair shot. And I get that because my co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, said that if he were in power, he would not change. He would not give up anything. And he says that power concedes absolutely nothing without a struggle and a fight. And so we get that. We get that you're maintaining and fighting for your way of life. I'm always reminded that 780,000 people gave their lives in the Civil War right here to keep black folk in slavery so that their way of life could remain the same and economics could stay in the same quarters that it has always resided, so that you could have a great harvest and go up to the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee, and watch the ducks march down the elevator shaft and jump into the pond 2 by 2. What a fabulous way to spend your celebration. And then the King Edward Hotel right here in Jackson, Mississippi, where African Americans were not even allowed to come in, even having built the place. Now, if you're watching us on our very own network, WeBelieveDigital.com, then hit the donate button and share this program with your friends and families. You'll see that we're just a little bit different. You see, because we are a network, We Believe Network. If you scroll down, you will see categories. For example, there's category of inspiration inspiration. You can choose to look at some of the best preachers in the world over there. You see a category of sports. You can see what's going on there and track Deion Sanders and the rest of the game. But you scroll down a little bit further and you'll see the internet radio station, We Believe Radio, is playing some of the best music 24 hours a day. We need you to join our team. Now, tonight, you can call in at 800-492-5186. Now, as always, my co-host, Dr. Eldridge Henderson, is here with us. And tonight, we're introducing and bringing on board our co-host up in Tupelo, Mississippi, that says, join the We Believe team. Will make a tremendous difference on how we report the news and to give America some glimpse of how African Americans feel about the things that are going on. But I'll start with Dr. Eldridge Henderson. How have you been, sir?
Well, I've been doing fine, sir.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell the world a little bit about who you are and what you've been doing.
Well, for the last 79 years, I've been in and out of the state of Mississippi. I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things, work with the federal government, state governments, local governments, educational institutions, religious institutions. I've also been involved in business development and self-employment. So I've done a lot of things throughout these 79 years, and I've given myself an opportunity, and I've trained my body and mind to function at least another 30 years and do the things that I do now on We Believe and other media sources.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now let's turn to our correspondent up in Tupelo, Mississippi, the Reverend Dr. James Hull. James, can you hear me?
Hear you well, Brother Garrett.
Well, it's good to see you. It's good to have you on the program, and I'm wonderfully excited that you've joined this team. And let's try and do the best coverage of what's going on in Mississippi and the world as we possibly can. Introduce yourself a little bit to the We Believe audience and viewers.
Well, my name is James Hull. I'm a journalist and playwright. I grew up in West Point. Live now in Tupelo. I am a pastor, and greetings to Dr. Henderson.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, what's going on in Tupelo? Y'all got anything exciting going up there? I understand that that's the fastest growing region in the entire state of Mississippi, part of the Golden Triangle.
Other than, the DeSoto County area we are. We've got a couple of folks who, this is election year. We only have 7 days from this coming Tuesday, and people are really getting excited about voting. I'm not going to attempt to endorse any candidate. I think our people really need to vote, and that means no matter who they're voting for, if we can get our folks to vote, then they will understand how to be an informed and educated voter. So that's what we're trying to do now. Look, in DeSoto County, we have a candidate who is who's running well. DeSoto County is a Republican county, but we have a representative, Ms. Heather, who won a Democratic seat, and she's running. We have Brother Andre DeBerry. DeBerry is a pretty famous in Mississippi. Andre's brother, Roy, used to be the administrator for Hinds County. Andre is running for the Senate, and we've got some pretty competitive races up there. Yes, sir.
Well, good. Now, we're going to get right into it. We shoot it pretty straight down here, We Believe, and there are some difficult things, as I said in my opening, there's some difficult things we have to talk about. Let's talk about this presidential race for a minute. And Dr. Henderson, I believe that Roland Martin is having his way with Tim Scott, the African American over there, and he seems to be being real hard on him. What's your thoughts on what did Tim Scott do and say to get himself in such a hot spot?
Well, Tim Scott is talking what I call the bullet points or the point lines of the Republicans. He is saying exactly what the other Republicans are saying, but he doesn't seem to think and act and talk like a black man. He is of the opinion that he is respected as a citizen in America. He thinks he is respected equally as a black Republican, and he also believes that he can say anything he wants about black people, lie about history, or confuse the people and make them think that he is their representative. But he's not fooling anyone, and when they cut his money off, he's going to disappear like a bubble in the ocean.
James, you know Tim Scott, you know his reputation. What are your thoughts about his candidacy?
Well, my thoughts are Tim has to be in the race, so Republicans can seem like they have diversity. You know, they've been lining up these candidates year after year, election year after election year. And if you've noticed the last 2 or 3 cycles, they have always had a black candidate. And that's because, you know, Republicans really feel like they've got to have a black candidate in order to look legit. But as Dr. Henderson said, he's not legit.
Well, let's talk about that because, you know, he's risen to a position of power in America to be able to run for the president of the United States of America, the most powerful position in the world, right under the Pope probably, and right up under, I always say there's God, the Pope, and the president of the United States, and that's the pecking order of power and influence that comes down through here. And we have a black man that says that he wants that seat. So he either thinks he is more than a token, or he is in some way demonstrating that black people should reach for that highest office, Doc.
Well, he is probably thinking both ways. He is thinking, and I can agree with him on the fact that a black man or a black woman should be running for president of the United States as a Republican. And as far as thinking that he is significant, as far as the white people are concerned, they would have found another person if he had said, well, I will not yield to this opportunity. I will wait until I get more status in the nation, help pass major bills, is going to help my constituents. And I didn't say black people, I said my constituents. So therefore, he took advantage of the opportunity. When you wave that flag, and you start talking about freedom and economic justice and all of this propaganda that has never been aligned in the path of black folks, Scott has made a good decision. We need him there talking, but he is not going to be very effective because he will not become the president of the United States at this time. There are not enough votes in this country to get him that honor.
Well, James, we have black people that are doing things that are remarkable, and we've always had that. I mean, of course, we realized that Barack Obama broke that ceiling, that glass ceiling, and showed that African Americans could lead this country in a progressive way. And he led it with dignity, and he led it with charisma, and there was not one scandal of any kind while he was in the White House associated with, you know, the kinds of pitfalls that others like Bill Clinton had gotten themselves into, and so easy to find traps like that because people are coming at you every day. But Obama was able to avoid all of that and led this country in a great way. But I don't know if he did a lot for black people. And I'm wondering, would the black community be better off with a black president or with a right-thinking white president? What's your thoughts, James?
Well, I've always said and will continue to say that I will vote for anybody, no matter what his color is, if he is going to work in my best interest. For me, I'm a black man. I'm a civil rights veteran. I started in this when I was 11 or 12 years old. But I am mature enough now to know that there are a lot of black people like Tim Scott who do not have my best. He's gonna tote other folks' water. And so if there's going to be somebody that's going to represent my interests better than me, let's do it. Let's elect a white guy.
Okay. Now I want you to be careful there, because when we don't have the freedom in the African American community to just support a candidate of our choice based upon the principles that you just outlined, someone that is going to be representing your best interests and the best interests of African Americans. Because when you say your best interests, you're speaking for the interests of African Americans. I know you well enough to know that. And so the deal here is black people will be blackballed and be criticized and demonized for expressing those kinds of sentiments. How do we get around that, Dr. Henderson?
Well, you have to be smart to get around anything like that when you are in the public mind as an elected or appointed official. You can pass all kinds of legislation for the general welfare of all the people without designating the fact that you're doing it for black people. When you look at the Constitution of the United States and look at what it declared it was for, except the fact where it says it was codified for white males only. Now, since 1879, they've changed the Constitution with amendments to make people believe that it's for all the citizens of Mississippi, all the citizens of the South, all the citizens of the nation. And when I say all, excluding black folks. Historically, the Constitution was not designed for black people, and every time they made an effort to correct that misstatement that was on purpose in the Constitution where black people were excluded, they've always said, well, we're going to throw a little amendment here and there to make black people think they are real citizens. And we have passed the law, but we're not going to enforce it because constitutionally, and we love the Founding Fathers, we're going to keep it the way it was original thought with their patterns of racism and their property issues and consciousness that black folks are significant only if they are beasts of burdens, and we're going to keep it that way until we can replace them with someone else.
Whoa.
And I'm not going to tell you who they're going to replace them with.
I'm not in the game of being replaced here. I think that your point of view is well taken, and I think that the facts speak to the issue that we were not written into the Constitution, that we were not considered to be a man. We were not considered at all, and I get that. And there has been no constitutional amendment to change any of that. And as you say, we try to deal with various amendments to deal with some of those issues. But my good friend James Meredith, who you know well, and Dr. Hull you know well, has always said that all he wanted was full first-class citizenship, and then you could keep all of the amendments. Just give African Americans full first-class citizenship in this country, which they so rightfully deserve.
But now let me just insert here.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. James Meredith is not what you call the average black man. He is superior in his thinking, in his intellect, and his ability to do what's best for himself and his people, even if he has to work alone. He is not concerned about whether he is loved or approved by the power structure in this state or anywhere. He is an independent thinker. He is the type of black man that a lot of black people don't like. He is not an accommodationist. He is not one that's saying, I believe in integration. He believes in participation, not as a black man, but as a citizen of Mississippi, a citizen of the United States. He worries about his opportunity to do what he's supposed to do as a citizen, even though he knows constitutionally he is not supposed to be one in Mississippi and in this nation. But he has enough sense to know that I'm going to learn everything I can And I want to get it from the people that want to keep it from me. That's why I want to go to their schools. That's where I want to learn the law so I can know exactly what I ought to be doing for myself and my people. I am going to get in business. I'm going to be economic specialist and on and on and on. I'm going to help train others, written about 25 or 26 books, maybe now about 32 or 33. The man is a genius, and he is the bravest man in America.
Wow, I would agree with you, James.
Let me throw something out here, because you told me to be careful because I said I would vote for a white man over a black man if he's going to represent my interests. All I have to do is go 90 minutes north to a black enclave in Memphis, Tennessee, and look at Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen is a white man in Memphis, has been representing a black enclave for like 12 years or so. And he keeps getting reelected. Now, you have a lot of people who have looked at what Steve Cohen does and how he does it. And that cat really represents his constituents. And that's just the honest truth, brother. So,
Well,
first of all, I just don't think that there are not white people who will not represent my interests. And my interests are, as you know, Dr. Henderson alluded to, my interests are economic empowerment, employment, health care, and there are a lot of people around in the world, in the Deep South, who feel like that. So I'm not going to apologize for saying that I would vote for somebody who's going to have my best interests at heart. That's me.
I appreciate you.
Be careful if you have a
No. We want you to bring the unapologetically truth. That's what you always say. We're up against a hard break on a commercial, and we're going to take a commercial. We'll be right back, and I want to talk about the faith of Clarence Thomas and a few other things before we leave the national scenes when we come back. But right now, we're up against the station break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
To order, visit earthblendcoffee.co now.
Welcome back to Socrates, Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the Deep South. Jackson, Mississippi, the capital. We've been in the news a lot lately, and there's some issues and some things that concern us both. We're talking about Jackson, Mississippi, and its majority African-American population. We're some 85% of the population here in Mississippi, in the city of Jackson. We're 40% of the population statewide. So African Americans have a real presence here, and yet we're suffering. We're last in most things. Economically, we're the poorest state in the nation. Health-wise, we're the most obese state in the nation. Infant mortality is highest in any place in the nation. We have more people incarcerated than anywhere else in the country. So we got a lot of work to do in Mississippi, and it's going to take individuals like my co-host tonight, Dr. James Hull, and Dr. Eldridge Henderson, to give us some plans and some strategies on how we're going to fix some of these problems that we have. But we're going to get right back into our show. Again, though, if you're watching us on YouTube, go on and subscribe. On Facebook, share this with your friends and family and send us stars. On WeBelieveDigital.com, hit the donate button, scroll down the website, listen to the internet radio 24 hours a day. We're here for you. We Believe Network is here for you. Now we're going to get right back into it. Dr. Hull, we were talking about the African-American positions and presence in this country with Tim Scott running for president, and we talked a brief moment about Barack Obama, and you indicated to our audience and our viewers that it's time for African-Americans to vote what's in their best interest, regardless of skin color. And I think that's a message that's not sounded loudly out here in Mississippi. Most of our traditional leaders are yellow dog Democrats, and they wouldn't vote for a Republican if he said that he was going to give reparations and put all nonviolent offenders out of jail and give all of the black HBCUs, equal footings of the major colleges in Mississippi. The traditional black leader would not support a white man, regardless of what he said. Your comment, sir.
Let me expand on my last point. I picked up the paper yesterday, and Dr. Van Jones, who was the chancellor at the University of Mississippi for just a brief period of time, he's vice president emeritus of the University of Mississippi School of Medicine. And they had this health summit on Wednesday. Today is Friday. This was in the paper. Van Jones said, health care is a moral issue. Okay? Help everybody, he says, in other countries in the world, it's not a privilege, it's a right. So now here's a white man who is advocating morality, and he's advocating it to the point where he is saying health care is a right, and it is immoral for anybody in this state and across this country to be without health care. So there are people like that who are advocating in my best interest. That's undeniable.
I got you. I hear you loud and clear. Black people at the highest level, Dr. Henderson, like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thompson. What is going on with him? I understand that, he's got some ethic violations, and it seems like the law is not equal to all citizens.
Well, there's nothing going on with Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. You must understand that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is a man that was put in that position during one of the serious opposition periods in America as a justice. He had more controversy that would keep anyone from getting that position than any candidate in the history of America. But he won, and now he is doing exactly what he's been planning to do since he graduated from law school. There are three things that justice knows. He knows that if you get to be a Supreme Court justice and you don't have the economic clout that you should have had to get in that position, that he is going to figure out a way to get it. He also knows that once you get a top position like that, and it's a position for life, that he is going to be courted by the billionaires and the millionaires all over America and all over the world. And he is smart enough to have done the research, I'm quite sure, and found that he is doing nothing that the others have not done since the history of the Supreme Court, taking advantage of opportunities, going to major events in private planes or the private coach, going to places in the ship when they didn't have airplanes, getting loans and let people buy him property and pay his rent, send his sons and grandsons and cousins to the big universities in America. They all do that. And that's why he's still in office. He will do just like Bill Clinton did when they tried to get him out of office. He will let them say all kinds of things about him. And just before vote, he will start exposing the history of some of his opponents. And he never did get kicked out of office. The man had done anything the others have not done, and they highlight it because people are jealous of him, able to be a patsy for the Republicans, doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Got him a white wife that's strong and working with him. She's getting rich too. And he is doing exactly what capitalists supposed to do.
Well, I hear you, Dr. Henderson, and I don't know if that's what they're supposed to do. I think that there's something wrong with that picture. I think that the fact that Justice Thomas has been more conservative and has, quite frankly, hurt black people more than any other individual that I know. We have to deal with him differently, and we cannot say that he's just part of a gang that's always done something. He is really setting black people back.
I would agree with that now.
Okay.
We didn't talk about that part.
Okay.
Now, that's a different story, and there's another story about how he has supported legislation that I call anti-black.
Right.
He is an establishment man. They didn't put him on that Supreme Court to fight against the status quo. He is to support whatever the Republicans, leaders, and elitists want him to support.
Well,
Two
Dr.
things,
Hub.
Socrates.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number one, you know, as much as I love you and respect you, I gotta correct you on one thing. He does not find himself in ethical violation. You cannot violate ethics if there are no rules of ethics. He might be in some ethical dilemmas with us because we know what he is. And the other thing, that's one thing. The other thing is, man, let's call it what it is. Clarence Thomas is an Uncle Tom. The classic use of the word that we've been using ever since he was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court. He's a lackey. He is a lackey. And he is, in the classic sense of the word, an Uncle Tom. So let's just call it the way it is. And Dr. Henderson is exactly right. From the standpoint of him being put in to do their bidding, he's doing a real good job. He's doing an excellent job. Antonin Scalia was his mentor. Scalia was about as far right wing as you could get. And when Scalia died, Clarence Thomas never even, I'm sorry for shouting, Clarence Thomas never even asked a question on the Supreme Court until Antonin Scalia died.
Wow.
So let's just be real here, man. Clarence Thomas is a lackey.
Well, let's talk about African American leaders for a moment, because we got some issues with leadership. And most of us believe that there's a void in leadership in the African American community that's creating this vacuum, this opportunity for racism, bigotry, and conservative values to grow in. And so we got to talk about how that existed, but we got to go back and understand something. I was talking to Dr. Henderson before the show, and I brought up Thurgood Marshall, and I want you guys, our children don't know, and many of us don't know, who these leaders were, and what did Thurgood Marshall do for us, and Adam Clayton Powell. Let's talk about these gentlemen for a moment, and just tell us a little bit about what you think about how they were during their time that they reigned. Dr. Henderson, let's start out with you.
Well, let's start off with the first real strong maverick, and that was the mayor of Chicago, a guy named Harold Washington. He was a former military guy that was discriminated against when he was in the military, and he was an officer, by the way. And when he got to be mayor, he decided he was going to be mayor of Chicago. And of course, he was a strong favorite of black folks, and he was hated by the majority of the white people in that area, especially those in economic development. He didn't last very long. He got sick and died an early death. He was discredited. Then you had another one to move forward from New York City named Adam Clayton Powell. He was a preacher, like my good friend Reverend Hull, and his father was the top so-called black preacher in New York City at the time, and I believe the church was named Episcopalian Baptist Church or something like that. Now these were super mulattoes. They were, his father looked so white until if he didn't say he was a white man, a black man, folks wouldn't believe it. Then his son was a carbon copy, Adam Clayton Powell. He looked just like a white man. He was more white than J. Edgar Hoover, who was the FBI director. So this guy thought he was getting in Congress to do like the other folks. So when Adam Clayton Powell got in Congress, they also had a guy named Representative Dawson, and I believe he was from Chicago. So he got in power, and he said, I'm not going to be like Dawson. I'm going to go to the congressional barber shop and get my hair cut. I'm going to use the bathroom, and I'm going to go to the cafeteria. As a congressman, that's my duty, and that's my right.
Are you saying that we had congressmen before him that were African American that couldn't use the bathroom in the White House?
Well, they could have, but they were not bold enough to do so. It was the segregation laws in Washington at that time. That was one of the most segregated cities. It was worse than Mississippi. At least black folks and white folks would get along in Mississippi during that period if they didn't ask anything other than to get out of that, stay in that place. But they had rigid segregation in Congress at that time. Wow. So Adam Clayton Powell decided, I'm going to be representing these folks from New York. I am just as good as they are. I'm as smart as most of them, or smarter, and I'm going to eat here, going to get my hair cut, and I am going to invite my friends to come and eat with me in the congressional restaurant. And that's what he did. And then the other congressmen and other blacks start coming in. But wow. He was not going to settle for that. And then he stayed in so long because he was not an Occotom until he got to be the chairman of a committee. I believe it was the Education Committee. And he ruled it with an iron hand. One of the first declarations he put in was, you are going to be on time if you come into this committee. You can't walk up in here anytime you get ready. And we're going to work from an agenda. And if you look at his history of the legislation that he sponsored and had passed, it was the greatest period in the history of education as far as any chairman in the state. I better say in the nation. Check it out.
I will. Dr. Hull, your recollection
of
of
Adam Clayton, I'm sorry.
Yeah, your
Go
recollection.
Ahead,
No, your recollection
well,
of these
Adam
gentlemen.
Clayton Powell's key allies was a man by the name of Malcolm X. And a lot of people should really understand that Adam Clayton Powell and Malcolm X collaborated on many, many issues that affected the Harlem community. And I mean, the brother was bad. I mean, Dr. Henderson he was bad. Didn't take no gump from nobody. guy that I understood about who was really speaking up for our folks. Hey, son, I'm going to have to jump off.
Okay, Doc, it's always good to have you on the program. We're looking forward for you being a regular with us as we discuss things that happen around the world and throughout the state of Mississippi. So have a great evening.
Absolutely.
All right.
I think
Bye.
we've got the technology down pat. My wife and 2 children are hanging curtains in the living room. They're getting louder and louder and louder, so I'm going to jump off.
All right, then. All right. Talk to you soon.
God bless you. Dr.
Okay,
Kennison,
Doc,
it's
we
regards to you.
have interesting conversation going on here about great leaders. Now, let's take Adam Clayton Powell and let's take James Meredith. I don't believe I've seen a street in Jackson, Mississippi, or a monument of anything for James Meredith throughout the entire city of Jackson.
You're not going to see it anytime soon until some of these liberals get out of office. They are afraid to even announce the intention of doing a street in the name of 2 individuals. One is James Meredith, and the other one is Malcolm X. Anyone that says that, any black politician, will not be elected if they think he is serious. If they talk about, if he says, if I get in office, we will have James Meredith Avenue and name a long 10-mile route. And at the end of that is going to be Malcolm X Expressway around Jackson State University, for instance. It would not happen.
Well, you got Martin Luther King in every African-American dominated city.
Because he was catering up to the people that were supporting his organization. He was an integrationist. People loved him for a while because the integrationists knew that they were not going to allow any real integration in America, and specifically not in the South. And that's why they would honor him, because they killed him. And you get rid of your opponent, and then you praise him. They did Jesus Christ the same way. How many Christians you know that are not practicing Christians, but they pretend they love Jesus? They have him on the cross, pictures everywhere, books about him. Best-selling book in the world is the Bible, the Christian Bible. But who loves Jesus? Very few people that I know of.
I don't recall any street named after Malcolm X that I've been in major cities.
Well, there might be 1 or 2 little short places somewhere. I don't know any myself.
But not in the state of Mississippi.
Oh, not in the state of Mississippi, of course not.
And so if we're 40% of the population and 85% of the city of Jackson, you think we're afraid to do that?
Of course, if you're an elected official.
Well, that's all we have is black elected
that's right.
officials.
If you're a black elected official, you are not going to be talking about in a serious manner. You might say it in a private meeting. We ought to do it, but I wouldn't do it because I know I'm not going to get the support. They might say it in a private meeting. And if you would record that statement on purpose and let it out on purpose, they'll say, well, I was misinterpreted.
Misinterpreted.
Say, I didn't say that. And the same about James Meredith, because they know that is a man with great character. You didn't hear about a lot of scandals about him during his early life, during his working life, and during the period even up to date. He was a great man. And the politicians today in Mississippi not going to honor him because he was leaning towards the Republicans. He probably is a known Republican because he worked for the racist up in when he had his law degree. You know, he worked for a congressman or senator, I believe, from one of the southern states. And the black folks got on him about that.
Now, Doc, why do we always harp that you got to get the vote out? If black folk can't make a difference, what's the purpose of voting?
Well, the purpose of voting is very important. That's one of the most important rights any citizen or non-citizen should have, voting. But the people that are talking about voting, sir, are not using the right tactic. What I would be a fool to run for office and expect, now as a first-time candidate, the current registered voters to vote for me when I know you don't have but about 25 to 30% of them registered in my district. Those folks going to vote for the same people they've been putting in prior to my entry into the race. So you don't go and think you're going to win in that case unless you do some preliminary work way before you announce, like several people that I know that did. You work through others, register people to vote, because over half of the black registered voters in Mississippi don't vote, and then you have about 50% in Mississippi that's not even registered. So a smart politician, black or white, will surprise everyone if they will look at the blacks that are voting, encourage the other 25% to vote, that's registered, and then go and recruit the 50% that's not even registered to get them to vote.
How are you
and
going to
then
motivate?
Announce that I'm running for office.
How are you going to motivate that 50%?
You have to get them registered, get them on your calling list, find out where they are, and you know where they are. They're your neighbors. You know what precinct they're in. You can get that information from the Election Commission, and you set up programs and opportunities to meet with them and go and work with the current blacks and whites in the legislature and have some programs designed in law that you know they're not going to pass, that's going to be benefiting those people, the new voters. And then you announce about a year later that you're running. And you got your people locked in.
Doc, we're up against a commercial break. I've heard that sound. So we're going to have to stop here, take a commercial, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Hey, have you heard about the Accountable Card? It's more than a card. It's a complete mobile banking service that's accountable to all of us. You'll get a no credit check debit card good anywhere Visa is accepted to make purchases, deposits, even get or transfer cash with an FDIC insured bank account managed from our smartphone app. There's even a pre-approved no interest line of credit if you need emergency cash. So why go to the bank when you can have ours in your pocket? Get accountable. Just download our app today.
Socrates, Garrett, ENT.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett ENT.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live right here in Jackson, Mississippi from the We Believe broadcast studios. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, you know we've been seen all over the world in over 139 countries. If you're watching us, we want you to send us stars and share this program with your friends and families. We're beginning to get some contributions from Facebook for the quality of work that we're putting out, but we need more. We need your help there. If you're watching us on YouTube, then go on and hit the subscribe button. We're in the middle of a subscription campaign, and we're growing. We're growing every day, but we need your help. Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Now, one thing about our subscribers and our viewers, that they are growing organically, meaning that we get a lot of folk in the comment sections, and we get a lot of people that are involved in our program. So we like that. Now, some of you that are commenting out there don't quite get it. Some of you don't understand the plight of a black man and what he's been through and how he's got here and why his attitude is somewhat different. You don't understand, why you see people that are hanging around convenience stores drinking a 40 early in the morning with no ambition and no drive. You don't understand the impact of drugs and the devastation of unemployment and the breakup of the family, what it has done and the damage that has been done in the African American community. When you remove the father out of the home, in the African American community, you had no idea what environment you were creating. So now we have children that are 8, 9 years old that are walking the streets with Uzis and their pants down below their butt, and they have no fear. They have no fear, and they have no respect. And so we got ourselves a problem here, and the only way we're going to fix the problem is to go back and reverse the things that we did to create it. It doesn't have to be rocket science. Let's put the male back into the home. How are we going to do that? He needs good jobs. He needs a job that's paying a living wage. He cannot feed and be head of a family working at McDonald's. You just can't do that. You can't be head of the family working at the convenience store. You can't do that. We have to put some economics in our community. We have to bring businesses in our community. I always says that, in the white community, they get economic engines. In the black community, we get casinos. And in black community, casinos are designed to extract wealth out of the community, not to put wealth into the community. And so we got some policies here that are hurting our community that we got to fix. Now, we're going to deal with the local issues in Mississippi for a while, this last segment. Dr. Henderson, a man that's respected all over this country, born on a plantation up in the Mississippi Delta, lives in the Jackson-Hinds County area, knows a lot about what's going on here, and we respect his opinion. Now, Doc, I read the other day, and I understand that the mayor of this great city indicated that a young man got ran over by an off-duty police officer driving a police vehicle, was killed, and that the coroner went before the Board of Supervisors in Hinds County, which has 5 African Americans, and they gave the permission and I guess the expense money, and they buried the man. And then his mother said that she had been looking for her son for 7 months. Now, I can't imagine how that can happen, that you have a missing persons notice in your community, that an officer kills a person, and then black folk bury the person, and the mother's still looking for him.
What you can't understand about that?
How that can happen under African American leadership. We had a black mayor, you got a black police officer, you got a black board of supervisors, you got a black coroner, you got a black dead man, you got a black mother. How is it that we're not communicating?
It's very simple. This man was considered insignificant. This man was considered a member of a permanent underclass. This man was considered an outcast. Didn't nobody, I heard the mayor make this announcement, didn't anyone that I know of during his talk, the police, the people from the mayor's office, the community constituent leader, chairman, or whoever that person is, or even the police chief during that time, did any major investigation. The coroner didn't do it. That wasn't her job. Her job is to pronounce the person dead and hopefully to get him buried. So she did what she's supposed to do. They have the county supervisors can give permission for one to be buried if they want on county property. They have a place down in the Raymond area where you can bury unknown or unwanted people that people don't identify. But now if that had been a black person of any significance or a white person, that person would be in a cooler until they find his parents.
Now, Doc, is this common practice to bury people and not knowing who they are, or not knowing their relatives and family members? Is that doesn't seem like it's moral? Well, that seems like you're opening yourself up for some major civil lawsuits and violations here. It just doesn't seem like that ought to be common practice.
Well, it's not a common practice, but it is a practice, and that's why elected officials have something, Mr. Socrates, called insurance. They are not going to file a case against the mayor or the police chief. They're going to file a case against the city or the county, and they are going to settle out of court for $2 or $3 million. That is, if it's a white person. If it's a black person, they will sell it for less than $1 million, and they forget about it. Now, people don't like to hear that. I say this often. People don't like to hear, but historically, if you do the research, you'll find out that's the way it goes. If you're an important black person and your son or daughter get abused, they're going to be notified. There'll be a lot of marching and praying and protesting. There'll be an attorney showing up within 30 minutes talking about, I'm going to investigate this case and I'm going to sue somebody. It happens all the time. But if you're not known and you hadn't been around home for a while, your parents don't know where you are. You might be homeless or whatever. And then when they can't find you through the grapevine and hear that you are dead through the grapevine, they are very concerned, and they should be. And they ought to sue everyone involved, and they probably will, but they have to get a real lawyer with the clout on the national level to make this happen, because they are not going to be able to find many local lawyers in Hinds County that will take this case.
We're 85% black county. When the population here, so why wouldn't black lawyers take the case?
Well, they able to take it. They have the legal expertise to do so, but most of the black lawyers and white lawyers that are leaning towards the candidates in office are not going to do very much to hurt them, because they say, I know this person. This is my friend. The judges are the same. When something happened, they say, I'm going to recuse myself from this case because I went to school with this person. His mother is a member of my church. On and on and on. That's why they're not going to take it.
Doc, how long does Mississippi have to get a black eye? How it's coming so frequently now until the whole face is black? And the issues that we're facing here in Mississippi are just tremendous. It doesn't seem like we can get a break. The governor of the state of Mississippi is allegedly involved in one of the highest corruption scandals in the history of the state of Mississippi. Some $77 million, or some say $97 million, taken from the poorest people in the land, those that were getting TANF dollars. We can't seem to keep sustaining this kind of corruption and this kind of black eye. We have a water crisis that's going on. We're on the national news in a city that the council person calls boo-boo land. And we continue to, do things that draw national attention to us in a negative way. We have the white czar that the federal government came down and put in place on our water, because we can't control our own affairs without having somebody else in charge. Black leadership is under tremendous pressure, and that I'm afraid that the report card is not good for black leadership in this country. And so we gotta deal with these issues, put it on front and center to see what the hell is going on. Why can't we manage our affairs?
Well, we can. Black people are some of the smartest managers around. But you have to get some of those in office that are good at management. Those that have the ability to do that and not considering wanting to be a career politician or move up the chain, they're not going to be very strong, because that's tradition. And the governor and others going to do what they want, because they know the federal government will sanction these things. And most of these high-level politicians know the history of the federal government and how they have abused people throughout the years. Look at what happened to all that black money they had in the Freedom Bureau right after slavery. They set up a special bank for black slaves, former slaves, put millions and millions of dollars in it, put white folks over that money. They stole every penny in less than 10 years, and if you go in the record books today, you will not find not one prosecution, not one. And the governors know that in Mississippi, Alabama, New York City, and others. They can do what they want with money that's for black folks. Who's going to prosecute them? You're not going to find the district attorney is doing much about it. You're not going to find much that the state attorney is going to do about it. only people that will work on this will be one on the federal level that think they can get a political benefit from it. They might file some charges, and that will take years before they force anybody to pay it back, and very little jail time will be served. Even if they are found guilty, they will put them on probation, make them pay a fine, put an ankle bracelet on them, and say, go down to the Salvation Army and work for, give us 30 hours.
It's not the way, it doesn't seem to be that way when we got 90% of our prison population is loaded with African Americans, and so it doesn't seem that that same rule will apply to them.
There are two rules. We have two rules of government in America. You have two laws, a European law and a black law. That's the fact. You know it and I know it. Do the research.
What's the black law?
The black law is if a black person has gotten in his mind that he can do what the white folks are doing with money, with power, with decision making, and be successful, we're not going to allow it. We're going to put a whipping on you, politically, legally, economically. We're going to expose you, boy. You can't make $10 or $15 million here violating the law or shady dealing and not be exposed and not go to jail. There are many examples. I can mention some right now that will make you feel bad about some politicians you know that were in office and work with others that's currently in office today. Some are still in prison. And the people that these people made rich have not served one day in jail. Not one day, and will not serve any.
Let's talk about the political climate in the elections in Mississippi. We're less than, November the 7th? We're less than 10 days away.
That's right. Just around the corner, as we like to say.
Just around the corner. The Democratic candidate for governor, Brandon Presley, is making a formidable challenge to the current sitting governor, Tate Reeves, in the state of Mississippi. Some say that race is neck and neck.
Oh, yeah? Who are those some?
Political pundits.
You don't say. I heard that.
Yeah. You don't believe it?
Well, let me tell you what the real news is. Now, you have heard of a guy named Rob J. Rob J. is a great journalist, reporter, sportsman, entertainment specialist, radio disc jockey, television anchor, just all kinds of things. And he asked me that same question this past Wednesday. And I gave him a sealed document who the next governor going to be in Mississippi. And he was talking that same propaganda that you are talking now. I gave it to him. It's sealed. He put his initial on it, and I put my initial on it. And on Wednesday, after the election, he's going to break that seal and say on his show who the governor will be in Mississippi. And I'm not going to tell you which one it's going to be, but we already know because we have done the research. I just gave you an example when you know who the voters are.
But these are two white men, Doc. These are two white men that are running for governor.
I don't care who they be. Two black people running. I can tell you who's going to be the winner. Now you watch that show next week on the Rob J. Show, the JSU Metro News. And see.
Well, I want you to bring that letter and that envelope after Rob J. announces it and bring it here to We Believe.
I'll do that.
Because you already know.
I already know. Because we have done the research. We know who votes and who doesn't.
Now.
We know who the Democrats are and the Republicans. And then we have enough sense to know that all black people are not Democrats.
Now, so I won't get into it and say that who's going to win the governor's race because you won't tell us what you put in that envelope. But I will go on to, there is no African American that currently holds a statewide office in the state of Mississippi.
That's a fact.
40% of the population, the highest number of elected officials of any state in the country, and no African American holds a statewide position. When is that going to change?
That's going to change when all the black elected officials, from the local dog catcher to the state senators and members of representatives, get together and put a law together and tell the top leadership in Mississippi that we're going to give you 1 or 2 years to make a change, and this is what I want you to do. Colleagues, I want you to appoint black people as chairman of at least 33% of all the state commissions, boards, and agencies. Mm-hmm. You get that first, get that done first. And then the next thing, if we have a retirement or a death on a state position, I expect you all to appoint a black male or female that we approve to that position. And then that'll give that person an opportunity. And don't put a amendment to this appointment that he or she can't run for office in this position. That's one way to do it.
Well,
and there are other ways, but these simple ways that can be done. But now, first, you're not going to get all these elected officials to do that.
Okay, but now we got two African Americans running for statewide office. We have an African American that's running for the Agricultural Commission, Mr. Bradford, Robert Bradford.
Right.
He's running against Commissioner Gibson.
He's highly qualified.
He's highly qualified.
Both are qualified. Who's the next one?
Larry Bradford running for state auditor, coming up out of the Mississippi Delta, out of your hometown.
He's qualified.
He's qualified?
Yes.
Does he have a chance?
I'm not going to tell you that. I don't want to hurt folks' feelings, Mr. Socrates.
Well, black folk, let me ask you the question another way. Could black folk, if they were united, elect a black member to a statewide elected
Of course they could.
So the problem is not the candidate, then the problem is in the minds of black people.
It's in the minds of blacks, and it's in the minds of the people that vote. You have to channel your goals and objectives to individuals and community organizations, and you can't let this be done when you announce that you're running for a position. You have to start at least a year before that time, before you announce you're going to run for office. Then you get your money team together and your management team, and then announce, after you've worked about a year, on the non-voters and those that are not even registered to vote. I've been talking about this for 15 years. Almost any incumbent could lose in Mississippi if someone would do just what I said a few minutes ago. If they would organize first, get their money together, get their social media presence together, get outside people to come in and campaign for them, get outside funders to give them thousands and $2 or $3 million each. All kinds of ways to make these things work. I've been working with people like this for 15 years.
Doc, we're up against the clock on our show. Our time has run out, but let me just say that we want to continue this conversation, this dialogue. We are asking you to go out and support Commissioner Willie Simmons. He's running for the Central District as the commissioner. The only black man that's ever served in that position, has done an outstanding job. He is doing the great work, but he needs your support. So we have Commissioner Simmons that we want everybody to take a look at. Also, Bruce Burton, Commissioner of Insurance, is out there. He needs your support. Larry Bradford for State Auditor needs your support. Now, Greta Martin is running for Attorney General. She's a white female in the state of Mississippi, so Greta is asking for your support. And, of course, Brandon Presley running for governor. Ty Pickens is running for the Secretary of State. Now, Ty is a real presence. He's a gentleman and a scholar, a lawyer, an ex-military man. He's running for a powerful position of Secretary of State. Ryan Grover is running for Lieutenant Governor. And Addie Green, your hometown relative.
That's right.
is running for state auditor against Chad White. Addie is a very popular person here. And then Robert Bradford Sr. is running for the Commissioner of Agriculture. And we can't forget Keitha Stamps that's running for the Public Utilities Commission.
That's right.
All of these people are qualified, and they would love your support, both whites and blacks, if we can make a change in Mississippi. If we do some of the things that you just outlined, and then people get their programs and their platforms in order in time, and then if African Americans and good thinking white folk would say, let's make a change and let's elect some of these African Americans to these statewide offices, it could make a real difference.
If, Mr. Socrates, if you mentioned about 10 or 11, if they had used that strategy that I just introduced to you 1 year before they announced, all of them could win.
Wow.
All. A-L-L.
Wow. We are going to have to teach that strategy. We are going to have to get you to speak in various places throughout the state of Mississippi and communities and train this new leadership on how to get elected in the state of Mississippi. Now, before we go, I want to send a shout out to the Mississippi Link newspaper that celebrating 30 years in business. The publisher, Jackie Hampton, who was also a board member of the National Newspaper Association, a board member of the Mississippi Press Association, and has done an outstanding job growing this newspaper. Minnie Garrett, the copy editor that has been here since day one over these past 30 years, has done an outstanding job. We salute you for the work that you've done. And their graphic artist, Marcus Johnson, who you can see the quality of all his work as he lays ads and pictures out in this newspaper. So we salute you, Mississippi Link, on your 30 years in business.
And may I add something?
Surely.
The other part that you didn't mention, you can't say everything, but you have two great writers here that I see. Dr. Janice Nell Vincent, Ph.D., contributing writer. And then another one that is fearless, Christopher Young. He is a contributing writer. And these two people make this paper. They write in such a precise manner, a third grader can understand it, even though they may not be able to pronounce some of those words. But if they would get a little old dictionary and look at some of the words they don't know, they'll be able to do it. Every time they talk about the when, where, what, and how. And they have a solution. Some good writers. And there are others. I'm not going to mention the other writers.
Okay.
We don't have time. But you have a good structure here, Ms. Socrates.
Thank you.
Great structure.
Now, Doc, tell the people how they can get in contact with you and tell them a little bit about PCAP Media, et cetera.
Okay, folks. Well, PCAP Media is a social media platform similar to We Believe. And we have enough sense to not try to replicate everything that's going on. So we work with Mr. Socrates, and we bring information to people all over Hinds County, state of Mississippi, all over the South and the nation through social media and Zoom and other places. And if you want to get in contact with us, all you have to do is call 601-201-1957, or you email us at clu369@gmail.com. And we will come and speak with you at your church, your school, your community organization. Mr. Socrates will come along with us, and we'll be glad to help you move forward and start changing your lives in 30, 60, or 90 days.
It's Friday evening. You know, the fall season temperature is changing a little bit in Mississippi. It was 82 degrees down here today, but we're looking forward to some cooler weather next week. Halloween is coming up, and so I know that many people are looking for places that they can go. They're having wonderful events for children and young adults throughout the city. Until next week, we want you to stay safe, and good evening.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.